Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Aisha, PhD scholar at the Department of Archaeology, University of Peshawar. The current video lecture is an outline of my M.Phil thesis. The title was The Forgotten Site of Matkanai, a study of Buddhist sculpture from 1980 excavation. This thesis was supervised by Professor Dr. Ibrahim Shah and was submitted to the Department of Archaeology, University of Peshawar in 2020. Introduction. The Department of Archaeology, University of Peshawar conducted a rescue or salvage operation of the Buddhist sites in 1980. A good number of sites were explored in various parts of the present Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The site of Malak Patay, located at Matkanai, was also included in the list of sites explored in the now district Malakan. The site of Matkanai along with Baghrajai were excavated simultaneously in the initial phase of this rescue operation. The cultural material from Matkanai and Baghrajai is preserved in the Sir Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum Museum of Archaeology and Ethnology, University of Peshawar and Dir Museum, Chakdara. It is worth mentioning here that the retrieved material from Matkanai and Baghrajai sites was mutually shared by the Dir and SSAQ museums. The research under discussion is purely based on the unpublished Buddhist sculptures from the site of Matkanai. The research was conducted to document, classify, and analyze the Buddhist sculptures and associated finds from the same site. These are contents of my thesis. The whole thesis is divided into 6 chapters. Chapter 1 is introduction. Chapter 2 is historical geography of the Swat Valley, whereas Chapter 3 is literature review. Chapter 4 is history of excavations at Matkanai. Chapter 5 is classification and documentation of the Buddhist stone carvings from Matkanai. Chapter 6 is discussion and conclusion. Apart from the above 6 chapters, there are bibliographical references, index, figures, and plates in the whole thesis. Statement of the research problem. The present research focuses on the sculptural remains scientifically excavated from the Buddhist site of Matkanai during the salvage operation of 1980. The site doesn't survive today, as it was leveled by the landowner for cultivation purpose soon after the completion of excavation. The Buddhist sculptures recovered scientifically during the process of excavation emerged as the only available evidence of the site and its associated cultural significance. These sculptures have not been studied so far, and the excavation report is also awaited. Therefore, this research was conducted to undertake an extensive study of these significant pieces of art and other associated objects, which were hidden from the scholarly world for about 4 decades. Aims and objectives. This include number 1, to document and analyze the sculptures and related cultural material excavated from the Matkanai site during the 1980 fieldwork. Number 2, to prepare proper catalogue of all sculptures and other associated finds for future researches. And number 3, to contextualize the corpus of Buddhist carvings from Matkanai and to assess its role in the chronology of the Buddhist art of Udayana. Significance of the present research. The present study is the first attempt of its kind to document and analyze the Buddhist carvings of Matkanai in an appropriate way. Field notes and other relevant data collected from the field director and the site supervisor were organized properly in order to put the same in their proper archaeological context. This enabled us to throw sufficient light on the cultural material retrieved from Matkanai. Thus, the present research bears great significance both in terms of art, archaeology, and cultural heritage. Research methodology. Legal requirements. Permission was sought from the Directorate of Archaeology and Museums, Government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, for studying the sculptures of Matkanai lying in the reserve collection of the Dir Museum. Permission was also sought from the SSAQ Museum to access Antiquity Register and study the sculptures of Matkanai lying in its reserve collection. Archival records in the form of step-by-step photographic details of the field work were obtained from the Department of Archaeology, University of Peshawar. Data collected from the excavators. The excavators, Professor Abdurrahman, who was field director, and Professor Farooq Swati, who was site supervisor, they both generously shared the original drawings of the site plan and notes taken during the field work. Interviews with the learned professors further enriched our knowledge about the site and history of its excavation. Aurangzeb Khan, former officer in charge of the Deer Museum, was also interviewed for the said purpose. Interviews with the people of Matkanai. For the nomenclature of Matkanai and Malakpate, interviews were conducted in the said village with senior and learned community members. Treatment of the data. The two collections or museums were frequently visited to see and inspect cultural material from the site. Each individual sculpture was properly cleaned, arranged, and subsequently carefully photographed, measured, and documented. Then the collected data were organized into different functional and thematic groups and subgroups such as Jataka, narrative relief panels depicting the life of the Buddha, the Bodhisattva figures, images of the Buddha, devotees or worshippers, human figures, mythical figures, birds and animals, architectural elements, and miscellaneous objects. Each group and subgroup was treated exclusively and described properly. The data collected from the two museums at Deer and Peshawar were processed and analyzed in accordance with field notes, drawings, and sketches taken during excavation. Finally, the entire corpus of cultural material was studied and analyzed in the light of available literary sources, including catalogues of sculptures dealing with the Buddhist art of Gandhara and Udayana. This helped in the identification of various scenes from the life of the Buddha depicted in the narrative relief panels. Similarly, books and research papers published on various aspects of the Buddhist art of Gandhara and Udayana provided additional help in understanding various issues related to the material under study. Personal communication and consultation with scholars and art historians also proved to be very beneficial. Geographical location of Matkanai. The village of Matkanai is located in the Union Council Totakan, Tehsil Swat Ranezai, District Malakand. It is approached from Batkhela, which lies on the main Malakand-Mingawara road, through a link road across the Upper Swat Canal that leads to Totakan. The Buddhist site of Malakpate, lying at the foothills in terraces, is situated to the southeast of Matkanai village, about a kilometer away. The site is generally referred to as Matkanai. The name is made clear in the field notes of Professor Swati, where it is written as Malakpate. This is a map of the village Matkanai, which is located in Union Council Totakan, Tehsil Swatra Nizai. You can see the village of Matkanai surrounded by other villages. Nomenclature. The Matkanai village probably derived its name from the local Pashto language. The nomenclature of the village is explained differently. The remains are situated in the field of a local chief that is called Malakpate, meaning field of the Malak, and the locality of the site is known as Malak Banda or Paloso Banda, meaning Malak's hamlet or Paloso hamlet. Palosa, plural is Paloso. This tree is local name of Acacia modesta, family Leguminosae. Whereas the word Matkanai is the combination of two words. Mat in local language means arm, hand, flank or border, while Karn or Kin means left hand. Like we say in Pashto language, Kinlas means left hand. The word may thus mean a village or place located on the left bank of the river. According to Dr. Abdurrahman, Matkanai is the combination of two words, Mata and Kanai. Mata in the local language is used for a good quality of soil, that is Mata Khawra, while Kanai or Kane means rock or stone. So literally Matkanai means soil and stone. It might be because there are houses made up of stones and mud mortar, or the place has a good quality of soil, that is Mata Khawra, and stones or rocks everywhere. According to Aurangzeb Khan, Matkanai is the combination of two words, Mata and Kanai, which means soil and digging respectively. Kanai is derived from kanastal, which means to dig. So literally this would mean to dig soil or to dig mata soil. Still another version is mata means pure humus-free soil, and kanai derived from kan meaning mine or quarry. Matkanai therefore means the quarry of pure soil. Excavation of the site. It was a joint project of the Department of Archaeology, University of Peshawar and the Deer Museum at Chakdara, sponsored by the latter. Excavations were conducted from 25th October to 15th November 1980. The excavators of the site were Professors Abdur Rahman, who was field director, and Muhammad Farooq Swati, who served as site supervisor and who was a student of masters at that time. The site was not found intact, rather already partly disturbed. The local people informed the excavation team that the site was robbed of its rich cultural wealth by illegal diggers in the near past. A 20 by 20 square meter area was selected for excavation. This area was further divided into 9 trenches, 6 by 6 square meter each, leaving 1 meter back between the adjacent trenches, which were marked as F4, F5, F6, G4, G5, G6 and H4, H5 and H6. Digging started in trenches F4, F5 and G6. The work was subsequently extended to all the remaining trenches. This is the site plan of Matkanai during 1980 excavation. This site plan was made by Professor Dr. Abdur Rahman, and I am honored to have this. According to the field notes of Professor Swati, Marchina or Serpent Spring is located to the southwest of Matkanai and Kolungai to western side. So here you can see the Hwad or seasonal stream. It is also mentioned here by Professor Dr. Abdur Rahman, whereas Shatingo Gundai can be seen at the southern end of Malakpate, and there are also some ancient ruins between this Hwad or seasonal stream and the Shatingo Gundai. So there are some more ancient ruins which are situated at the foothills to the southeastern side of Malakpate. Yet another site plan of Matkanai Malakpate of 1980 excavation. This is made by Professor Dr. Farooq Swati, who acted as site supervisor of the field activity. Here various structures exposed during excavation and various walls of these structures have been highlighted. Another drawing made by Dr. Farooq Swati, and different types of masonry have been depicted here. Glimpses from field activity of 1980 at the site of Matkanai. The site prior to excavation. Here you can see that there were no ruins above the surface. Layout of the trenches. Start of the digging has been started, digging in progress, and one can see Professor Dr. Farooq Swati in this Chitrali cap overseeing the ongoing excavation. Excavation in progress, excavation in progress. Again, the site supervisor is overseeing the ongoing field activity of 1980. Various structures have been exposed and walls of these structures can be seen here. So walls of different structures can be seen here. Here we can see that a square lamp niche in wall number 3 of trench H5. It was discovered in this trench. 2 statues of warriors found in trench G6. These statues, they were headless statues, and one is currently preserved in the reserve collection of the SSAQ Museum, and the other one is in the reserve collection of the Deer Museum, Chakdara. Cracked storage jar in trench G6. Structural remains. Detailed archaeological history of the site could not be developed from the debris because it was completely pillaged by illegal diggers in the past. However, what could be retrieved from the leftover wreckages and structural remains of different periods is presented here. A. Stupa precinct. The perceived stupa precinct seemed bounded by a perimeter wall as suggested by its exposed segments in trenches H4 and H6. The round stupa, built on a circular base of diaper masonry, survived with 37 cm high 3 courses of the drum. The presumed perimeter wall indicated that probably it was a shrine. Around the stupa, fragments of plain and decorated schist stone were picked up. Broken pieces of a large umbrella in the nearby trench G4 strengthen this assumption that this round stupa was probably a significant structure on the site. Here we can see the round stupa or the main stupa. B. Minor stupas. To the west of the shrine, remains of several minor stupas were exposed in trenches G4 and F4. Most of the stupas were built in ashlar masonry and lime plastered. Fragments of schist sculptures scattered around them were probably discarded by robbers. Minor stupas number 4, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14 and 15 were exposed in trench F4, while the remaining number 1, 2, 3, 5 and 6 in trench G4. None of them survived above their square bases. Here we can see votive stupas, square-based votive stupas, and none of them survived above their bases. Beautifully carved stucco sculpture of seated Buddha between pilasters of votive stupa number 13. Another seated Buddha carved in stucco. C. Chapel-like structures. Rectangular structures number 9, 10 and 11 facing to the west on a solid base or platform, mistakenly noted as votive stupas in the field notes. These were correctly termed as chapels by Dr. Abdur Rahman when I interviewed him during the process of my research. The platforms built in diaper masonry had traces of lime plaster. Chapels number 9 and 11 were exposed in F4, while number 10 in trench F5. Presumably, they were meant for enshrining a stupa model, an image or an emblem for worship or a ritual, or they were used for simple meditation. According to Dr. Abdur Rahman, these structures can be compared with cells number 1 and 2 excavated at the Shnesha site in district Swat, which were meant for keeping images for veneration. So here we can see the chapel-like structures and solid base of chapel number 10 with 5 pilasters having traces of lime plaster. The retrieved material or sculpture collected during excavation. The excavation at the Matkanai site yielded about 164 objects, inclusive of 126 sculpted pieces, mostly in black and rarely in green schist. The remaining objects were executed in stucco, copper, clay, and bronze. According to Professor Abdur Rahman, the corpus of excavated antiquities was housed first in a room of the Deer Museum that was later divided equally between the Deer and the Peshawar University museums. In the present catalogue, 135 objects of Matkanai, 72 lying in the University Museum and 63 in the Deer Museum are documented and further classified into different functional and thematic groups and subgroups. During my research, I classified the sculptures of Matkanai into 10 different groups. Here it will not be possible to present all the sculptures. Only selected sculptures will be presented in front of you. Group 1. We have only one Jataka in this group, and that is Dipankara Jataka. Group 2 is of narrative relief panels from the life of the Buddha, and we have total 12 plates in this group. The narrative relief panels include interpretation of Queen Maya's dream, the birth scene of the Bodhisattva Siddhartha, Horoscope of Prince Siddharth, birth festival of Prince Siddharth. The gods exhort Siddharth to renounce the world. Indra and Brahma entreat the Buddha to preach. Visit of a group of ascetics to the Buddha. Offering of food or 4 bowls to the Buddha. Panel depicting solar disk in front of the Buddha inside a cave. The death scene or Mahaparinirvana of the Buddha. This is interpretation of Queen Maya's dream. A defaced panel though. The birth scene of the Bodhisattva Siddhartha, depicted on a Hermika. This is also birth scene, a detached piece of birth scene, where Indra is ready to receive the emerging baby. Horoscope of Prince Siddhartha. Birth festival of Prince Siddhartha. The gods exhort Siddhartha to renounce the world. It is also somewhat defaced panel. Indra and Brahma entreat the Buddha to preach. Visit of a group of ascetics to the Buddha. Offering of food or 4 bowls to the Buddha. The death scene or Mahaparinirvana of the Buddha. Group 3. We have Bodhisattva figures in this group. So these 2 heads of Bodhisattva. Also Bodhisattva bust and head. Group 4 includes images of the Buddha, and we have total 16 plates. Here we can see head of the Buddha under a cornice, and the other head is a hallowed head of the Buddha. Again, images of the Buddha depicting on Hermika. Here also in the first panel there are 3 Buddhas seated in Dhyana Mudra, flanked by devotees on either side, and in the second panel we can see that it is a broken panel, and Bhumisparsha Mudra is depicted here. Buddha is seated in Bhumisparsha Mudra. Group 5, devotees or worshippers, and we have total 17 plates. So here we have 2 devotees. One is standing in Anjali Mudra and wearing pure Indian clothes, that is Indian dhoti and shawl. The other one is also cladded in Indian dress, and it is kneeling and also in Anjali Mudra. 1 standing and 3 kneeling princely worshippers under a false gavel. Group 6, there are human figures, and we have total 55 plates in this category. Subdivision of group 6. A, warriors, there are 4 plates. B, musicians, we have 3 plates in this category. C, human figures with different actions, and we have 14 plates. D, human figures under arches, there are 8 plates in this subdivision. E, princely heads, and we have total 10 plates. F, human heads, again 10 plates. G, broken human hands and feet, there are total 6 plates. These are heads of soldiers or warriors. Corner into Corinthian pilaster depicting 2 musicians. Human figures with different actions. In this panel we can see that it is a large panel showing traces of 3 human figures. The one in the middle is comparatively larger in size and seated on a high couch in European style, with feet resting on a low stool. He is dressed in a tunic with beaded girdle at the waist. Baggy trousers, a mantle or cape is worn on both shoulders, which is flaring on his either side. He is wearing ear pendants and perhaps an elaborate headdress, which is badly damaged now. From his attire and central position, presumably he is a state functionary. The figures on either side are dressed in Central Asian dresses, that is, knee-length tunics and baggy trousers. Here we can see that there is a headless human figure in walking position. The other one is a bearded hermit seated in pensive pose. This is a fragment of a panel showing three compartments separated by Indo-Corinthian pilasters from right to left. The first compartment has a turban placed on a platform under an arch. The second compartment shows the bust of a turbaned man holding something in his right hand and looking towards right over his shoulder. The third compartment depicts the bust of a lady looking to some object in front of her. She is wearing ear pendants and her hair is neatly combed with a top knot. Here we can see two human busts under separate arches, and in fact this panel and the previous one, there seems to be broken pieces of one panel. Fragment of a rectangular panel depicts two compartments partitioned by an Indo-Persepolitan column, and the same column is repeated on the right side. Each portion is showing a Chaitya arch with hanging cones from their volutes, and each arch shows a standing female figure. A female under Chaitya arch. Lower half portion of this panel is broken and the remaining upper shows defaced torso of a female figure under Chaitya arch. Except for wearing a crossed breast chain, the lady is nude. Princely head. These are also two separate heads of noblemen. Human heads. The first is a soil encrusted human head with a high top knot. Again, two human heads, turbaned human heads, broken human hands and feet. In the first picture, we can see that these are clasped human hands, two hands broken off a human image in the position of adoration, wearing a flat band with beaded edges in the right hand. The other picture is an arm holding Vajra. This is also a human arm with straight index finger. A pair of two human feet, two standing human feet, mythical figures. In the first picture, we can see a cupid attached to a garland peg, and the other one is head of Nagaraja under an arch. Here, this is a figure of defaced Vajrapani, and the other one is a bulky human figure holding Vajra, perhaps a man or perhaps showing a Vajrapani because it's holding something like Vajra in his right hand. Group 8, birds and animals. Eagle heads atop the ends of false gable arches. Winged loins supporting a cornice. So actually this is a winged loin which is supporting a cornice. Four prancing horses in profile. Elephant front part and hind part. Actually these are two broken pieces of one panel. Group 9, architectural elements. This is a balustrade of vertical and horizontal bars with a coping of carved lanceolate leaves and stepped merlons atop. Two square panels depicting full-bloomed lotuses. Capitals of Indo-Corinthian pilaster. A slab with floral design. Group 10. In this category we have miscellaneous objects. The copper bowl from stupa number 6, it was retrieved from stupa number 6. But it is mentioned in the antiquity register that it contained a small gold disc, a tiny bead and an ivory disc. 4 flower birds. oil lamp with 3 internal projections, and this one is a smooth surface cylindrical pedestal. During analysis of the sculptures, we observed some indigenous and foreign impacts on the sculptures of Matkanai. So first of all, I would like to discuss about indigenous features. Here, majority of the human figures are carved in the typical Swati style. Facial structure is from oval to round with a high bridge nose and wide chin. Their lips are thin and closed tightly under a large and dense mustache. The eyes are from half to fully opened with prominent brow ridges. These features can be seen clearly in these plates. The figures are mostly dressed in the indigenous cloths, that is shawl and Indian dhoti, where folds are represented with deep cuts or incisions. There are no rigid and schematic arrangements of the costumes, rather the drapery is shown billowing in a naturalistic way. These details can be observed clearly in these plates. Foreign influences. Apart from indigenous features, certain foreign influences can be observed on the sculptures of the present collection. Number one, Hellenistic influence. We have a lot of Indo-Corinthian pillars and pilasters, acanthus leaves, Nagadanta or stupa peg, and Cupid. In Roman influences, again, acanthus leaves, quadriga, Nagadant or stupa peg with attached male cupid. It is also used in Roman architecture and mythology. Depiction of nude male figures. Persian, Persepolitan pillars and pilasters, Indo-Persepolitan pillars with 2 adosed humped bulls, stepped Merlan motif intermingled with Indian railing design. These are some Persian influences which were observed during the course of our study. Central Asian influences on the sculptures of Matkanai. The figures are wearing costumes of Central Asian origin with amalgamation of Indian dresses, and these features can be clearly visible in these plates. Chronological reconstruction. In the absence of secured archaeological context ruthlessly destroyed by robbers and any other reliable evidence, we have attempted to reconstruct relative chronology of the site mainly on stylistic basis from the survived sculptural and structural remains. A. Chronological reconstruction on sculptural evidence. The chronology of the sculpture is established on the basis of style. Stylistic analysis leads us to assume that the Matkanai sculptures were produced during the rule of the Kushans, more precisely late 1st century to early 3rd century CE. B. Chronological reconstruction on structural evidence. The excavation revealed structures of 3 different periods having different masonry superimposed on each other. The excavators assigned a relative sequence based on masonry as follows. 1. Structures of fine diaper masonry, 2. Structures of poor diaper masonry, and 3. Structures constructed of ashlar masonry. Chronology of the Buddhist archaeological heritage sites is based on data retrieved from them. Numismatic evidence and other scientific methods from secured archaeological contexts are major sources of absolute chronology, while typological or stylistic analysis of sculptural and structural remains or correlation of other artifacts are additional source of relative dating. In this regard, Sir John Marshall established an architectural chronology of some of the sites at Texila based on variation of masonry types in accordance with numismatic evidence. He recognized 4 distinct types of masonry: rubble, diaper, semi-ashlar, and ashlar. This relative sequence of masonry types can be confidently applied at least to 15 sites he excavated between 1912 and 1937. This sequence is demonstrated by superimposed masonry structures preserved at many of his excavated sites. Similarly, Kurt Behrend has recently put forward a relative chronology based on the structural typologies of various Buddhist sites at Texila, the Peshawar Basin, that is Gandhara, and the Swat Valley. He proposed 4 chronological phases based on masonry types. Phase 1 It is from 200 BCE to late 1st century CE, and rubble masonry is assigned to this phase. Phase 2 starts from late 1st century to 200th century CE, and diaper masonry, it is assigned to this phase. Phase 3 is from early and late circa 200 to mid 5th century CE, and semi-Escher masonry is assigned to this phase. Phase 4, mid 5th century to 8th century CE, and it consists of variable. Periodization of the Matkanai site is also constructed here on the Kurt Bahrain model, which places the three constructional phases at the site between phase 2 and early phase 3 of the given model, that is late 1st and early 3rd centuries CE. A copper coin of the Hindu Shahi ruler Shri Samantadev of the 9th century CE, excavated from disturbed layer 1 of trench number H6, it is dubious in nature, being an uncertain solitary find from insecure context. Therefore, it is not safe and reliable evidence to propose chronology. Stylistic analysis of the sculptural and typology of structural remains thus propose dates for the cultural phases of the Matkanai site between the reign of Vima Takhtu, that is from circa 85 to 110 CE, and Vasudeva I, that is from circa 194 to 226 CE. Conclusion. The Matkanai site excavated under the salvage operation was intended to save the site and cultural material from illicit digging. Although the objective was not fully achieved, yet the operation helped in retrieving some significant pieces of the Buddhist art. Due to certain limitations, excavations could not be extended to reconstruct a complete profile of the monastic life on the site. Otherwise, it would have been an authentic source information for the area concerned. The corpus of sculptural finds from the site consisted of broken and abraded relief panels as well as statues wrought in black and green schist stone. A few sculptures were made in stucco and some of them were black washed to give them feel of schist stone. A complete catalogue of the sculptures from the site is given in my M.Phil thesis, wherein every sculpture is properly described and documented with the help of the antiquity and accession registers of the university and their museum. Therefore, those viewers who are interested in the sculptures of Matkanai, they can access my thesis, which is lying in the seminar library of the Department of Archaeology, University of Peshawar. Thank you all for listening patiently, and in the end, I would like to thank my respected teacher, Professor Dr. Muhammad Naeem Qazi, for giving me this opportunity to present my M.Phil research in front of you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.